Hey everybody, welcome to episode 14 of Why Orillia. Today I am joined with Jacqueline Bayley from Hewitt. We are actually at the site of my first ever job about 15 years ago. We're gonna head into the corn stand now and do our interview. All right, so let's start the interview. I like to get every interview started off by giving you an opportunity to introduce to the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So my name's Jacqueline, and I am the general manager at Hewitt's Farm Market, Bakery, and Fun Farm.
Quite the tongue twister.
It is. They're expanding every day.
Yes, they are. So tell me a little bit about your role with Hewitt's.
So my role within Hewitt's is, as a farm market manager, is managing the market store, hiring staff. We have about 64 to 70 students working in our fields picking corn every morning, sorting corn. We have probably about 25 people in our bakery up at 5 a.m. every morning baking fresh breads, tarts, cookies, as you can see here. And on top of that, we also do a lot of outreach to the community.
So this is not a job for people who like to sleep in, is it?
Not at all. Not at all.
No. So Hewitt's is, an ever-growing business.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Hewitt's in general, maybe a little bit about where they started to where they are today.
So it was over 40 years ago that the Hewitts started working within the community with their farm market stands. We have 14 all across the region right now, 2 within Orillia, and it's many times it's the start of employment for youth. So we hire students as young as 13 years old to start picking in the fields. They start at 6 in the morning, followed by our little older students that come in, our youth that come in, and they sort the corn, and then we have our deliveries.
I think I was 14. I was trying to figure out before this episode how old I was when I started working at Hewitt's, and I didn't know if I was 16 or younger, but the fact that you guys do hire a little bit younger, I think I was 14 when I started working in this booth, back when this office was Century 21 Source for Sports.
Yes.
Was it Second Century?
Source for
Second
Sports,
Century Source for Sports. Now it's Century 21, so it's a big tongue twister for me. So Hewitt's, the business, like we've mentioned, has grown dramatically. You seem to be adding on every year another aspect to the business. Is there one in particular that's most exciting for you?
You know what, it's the whole package. When people think of Hewitt's, they think of everything from farm fresh produce, which we sell at the market 7 days a week, year round now, which is really huge, right down to our fun farm, which is open 5 days a week to community. We get involved in community as far as educational components.
Right.
So we invite schools to come to the farm and learn about pumpkin growing or the birds and the bees. We do puppet shows. And then we also have a component now that we're taking it into the classroom.
Wow.
So because it's become so expensive for schools to bus students to us, we're trying to figure out how do we bring the educational component into the classroom.
Wow.
So when you look at Hewitt's, it's everything.
That's really cool. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
So speaking of the community, I found that community involvement when it comes to a business is usually something that goes both ways. Yeah. So you guys have made a massive effort to be involved in the community, but the community also means a lot to businesses. What has Orillia specifically meant to Hewitt's in terms of their support?
You know what, on so many different levels. I mean, Hewitt's is a family-run business, and they've been here, like I said, for I say the farm market 40 years, but even longer in doing cows and the corn on the farm. But beyond that, they just offer so much to the community. They believe in developing youth, and so again offering first employment at Hewitt's. But not only that, we actually have people that come and work within Hewitt's, whether it's the farm market or our stalls, and we're interested in finding out what they want to do as a career later on and trying to give them those skills to develop. So we're not expecting them to stay at Hewitt's, but we want it to be their first step in their journey. You
know what, it's something that taught me a major work ethic when I was young. Lifting these big bags of corn and having responsibilities, being in charge of, of a till and, making sure that it all balanced at the end of the day was certainly something that was invaluable for me. Do we have a customer?
I think so, yes.
So, this is a show about great businesses in Orillia, but also great people in Orillia. And businesses and community are nothing without the people. So, tell me a little bit about your personal journey in Orillia.
Wow, so I've run many farmers markets over the last 30 years of my life, and lived just outside of Toronto, and always wanted to be up north where I could raise my family in a community that had a lot to offer them as far as recreation,
Right.
And just community, a small community feel. When we had the opportunity to move up here about 7 years ago, it was an amazing opportunity. So I enabled us to get close to water. My children have been involved in sports. Like I mentioned earlier, they both got their first careers here at Hewitt's. That's where they started their jobs. But just a little bit of everything.
You know, my family moved up from Toronto as well. And everybody seems to think that when you're leaving Toronto, everybody in Toronto thinks that you're crazy.
Yes.
It's like, how are you going to Orillia? And that's really what started the whole idea of why Orillia for me is everybody said, why would you go to Orillia? And then everybody who gets here is like, oh my God, we have everything. We have, you know, there's farms where you can get fresh produce, like right off the farm.
Yes.
You know, there's lakes, there's great employment opportunities. It's really amazing. So, you know, we could talk forever about Hewitt's. We could talk forever about Orillia, but I like to finish every episode by asking the same question. It's the name of the show. Why Orillia? So maybe more on a specific basis of one thing that you really love about Orillia.
Yeah.
Why Orillia?
So on a personal and a business level, the volunteerism in Orillia is just incredible. There's no lack of people wanting to donate their time to give to the community. And having volunteered myself and gotten involved in a lot of small businesses, it's just a joy to be in a community that cares for one another and watches out for one another.
Right.
And so opportunities for youth right up to senior citizens are out there all the time. And for me personally, it's been a great adventure with my family.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for taking the time and helping us set up here and getting this episode. So thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time, Joe.